Okay, there we go. Good morning, everybody. We are recording now, so just please keep that in mind. My name is Dorothy Dorton, and I am with AARP Alabama, and I really appreciate everyone joining us today for this really informative session we're going to have on social networking and technology during disasters. So hopefully you'll come away with some good information, some good knowledge on some stuff today. We are working with the South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program down here in Mobile, Alabama. And today our presenter is going to be Heather Sands, and we're really happy to have her. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Dorothy. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you. Thanks so much for doing this for us today.
Of course.
And just before we get started, a few housekeeping things. Just to let you know a little bit about AARP and AARP Alabama. We're a organization that empowers people to choose how they live as they age. We're a nonprofit, we're 501c4, which means we can advocate for the 50 and older and their families. And we have over 420,000 members in Alabama. And our role is to advocate for those 50 plus and their families, regardless of politics. And one of the things that we do, which is part of my job, which is the fun part, I think, is to present you with events like this one to educate you, to keep you involved, to keep you entertained. We have movies, we have all sorts of stuff. So I just, again, want to welcome you. And I do want to remind you that this is being recorded. We will put this recording up on our YouTube page after, in a couple of days. Usually can get it up in a day or two. And so, you know, if you're on here and you're listening, you can turn your camera off at any time. If you're not comfortable with that, that is perfectly fine. But just know that we are recording this. And if you do, please keep your phone on mute. So, and any questions you have, please ask them in the chat and ask away. We are really open to questions and would love to hear your questions. So please do that in the chat box as well. And again, once that recording is up in YouTube, I will be sending all of you who've registered that recording, so you can go back and watch it at any time. Also, in that email that will have the recording, there'll be a short survey link for you to fill out, just to let us know what you thought about this and what you think about other AARP events and maybe what you'd like to see in the future. So please take some time to fill that out when you get that email. We'd really appreciate it. And so without further ado, I am, if I can get this slide to switch for me, there we go. I am going to hand it over to our wonderful Heather Sands with South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I'm just going to get started today and kind of tell our viewers just a little bit about the South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program. We service Mobile, Baldwin, Clark, and Washington counties. And we service people who are 19 years or older within the RVLP service area that meet certain income requirements and are within our VLP subject guidelines. Now, AARP has given us a grant for the Hurricane Sally Disaster Recovery Project, and that's kind of what I am over, my position. And so we service people over the age of 50 that are also within the VLP service area that meet certain income requirements and are within subject guidelines. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is a list of, well, we're a partner agency of the United Way of Southwest Alabama and the United Way of Baldwin County. And then you can see just a short list of our funders as well. Next slide, please. Just a little background on us and what we do. Okay, so here is a list, pretty extensive list of the Volunteer Lawyers Program assistance areas. So there's a lot of topics here. One thing you will not see is criminal on here. And there's a couple other things that we don't handle, but you can always contact us, even if you don't see your specific need listed, and we can probably put you in touch with somebody who can help you. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay. And I'm going to jump in here real quick to say, for folks who are not maybe in the South Alabama volunteer lawyers area down here in South Alabama. There are other wonderful organizations just like SAVLP in all over the nation. So I would encourage you to kind of look and research if you do need some of these services. Please look in your area because there are some great ones. Also, you can call 211 in your area, which is a great place to find these types of resources. But I just have to give a real, before I put myself on mute, give another shout out to South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers and Heather, because they do a great job. And like I said, I'm sure there's a very similar organization in your area if you are not in Lower Alabama. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dorothy.
You're welcome. I will shut up.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And you can go on to the next slide when you're ready. Okay, we do have a quick disclaimer this morning. So we're going to give y'all some tools, apps, just different social media outlets that you can use, but the tools listed here may not be suitable for everyone. So it is encouraged to do your own research on what would benefit you and your needs best. Also, AARP and the South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program do not endorse any specific apps or companies. These are all just helpful suggestions. Also, keep in mind that social media is ever changing, so certain apps available today may not be available tomorrow, and content changes on them as well. So this is just kind of what we have today that we think would be helpful for you, just a few suggestions to kind of help you through these tough times. So, next slide, please. Okay, so the first point I want to make is just very, very important. Any of these apps, it is highly recommended to go ahead and download any apps before the disaster. You never know when your power may go out and or your cell phone service may be an issue. So you don't want to, struggle with a dead cell phone and you're not able to get these apps downloaded or a low battery or anything else. So you want to go ahead and get those downloaded before the storm or disaster. I refer to the storm because we talk so much about hurricanes down here, but of course this refers to any type of disaster. Okay, Dorothy, next slide. Okay, so it's time for our first poll. Actually, I think this is the only poll we're doing today. Do you find yourself using social media at all during hurricanes and other natural disasters? Pick yes or no.
Give it a few more seconds, but all right. Okay, so I'm going to close the polling now. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and do that real quick. All right. And I'm sharing the results. Here we go.
Okay, so the majority says yes. So yeah, most of us, even if we're not necessarily on social media, looking for disaster updates or whatever, we are on there, like whether it's to connect with people or, we're bored because our power has gone out, we have nothing else to do. We just naturally go to social media. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Dorothy. So that's why today I just want to give y'all just a list of some things that may be helpful during a disaster, and just right at your fingertips. So the first thing that we want to talk about is your local weather apps. So your local news stations are great tools for tracking weather and getting important disaster updates. And all you have to do is go to your app store on your phone and select your favorite news stations. I think pretty much every news station now has an app, and they usually have a news app and a weather app. So you can go ahead and get those downloaded. Just that way you get the most recent up-to-date notifications for your location. And you also want to make sure that you have your push notifications enabled for these news stations, because if you're not familiar with a push notification, basically you don't actually have to be in the app on your phone to get notifications. Even if your phone is sitting beside you and you have just your black screen on, you're not doing anything on your phone, the notification will pop up to alert you if there is any important change, if there's a flash flood warning, if there's a tornado warning. So I just think that is very important to make sure you have those push notifications enabled. Okay, you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here are some great outreach resources as well. So the American Red Cross has several app options for emergencies. They have the American Red Cross Emergency app that lets you monitor more than 35 different severe weather and emergency alerts in your town. And you can also pull up other cities as well that matter to you if you have family members there or whatnot. It's loaded with maps, alerts, and directions on how to make an emergency plan and execute it. And there are also other app options, including hurricane apps, tornado apps, and earthquake apps through the American Red Cross. And then FEMA has an app as well that where you can receive emergency alerts and information to help prepare before, stay safe during the disaster, and then also to get help after the disaster. I'm sorry, my words are all jumbling together this morning. The app also provides location of emergency shelters and disaster recovery centers nearby to help you after the disaster. And then the United Way, you can also follow your local United Way agency on Facebook or Twitter or whatever their social media platforms are to get updates on outreach and different assistance resources after a disaster. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. This is what I found to be really interesting because I had no idea that these services were out there. Okay, if any of you are familiar with Airbnb, Airbnb actually has it's called the Airbnb Disaster Relief Initiative. And it is where private homeowners can rent spaces free of rent or at a discounted price for disaster victims, relief workers, and medical personnel through Airbnb.org. So if you're looking for immediate housing, whether you have, your house has been destroyed during a disaster or you're a relief worker that is in town for something, you can look for immediate housing and you can rent anything from a single room in someone's, space or, to an entire house. And then you can also specify any disability needs that you may have. So I just think that is a great resource. Also, Get Around is a car sharing app that allows drivers to rent cars from private owners. And this could be a great resource because if your car is damaged or you must relocate after a disaster, car rental services are typically very slim. And so this would be a great option for renting a vehicle for just some immediate needs. Now, with both of these apps, during non-disaster times, you may not see your specific location listed, but the apps will likely be updated in the wake of a storm or other disaster to include more service areas. So say you got on there today and we don't have, a disaster going on right now, you may not see your city on there. However, right after a disaster, you could get back on and it could have been added. So they are trying to stay up to date from my research. They're trying to stay up to date on keeping those cities added that need assistance. So Get Around is a free app and can be downloaded on your smartphone. And then the Airbnb.org is just that's a website that you would go to. It's not necessarily an app. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next, if you need help with a specific task after a disaster, TaskRabbit is a free app that connects users instantly with someone skilled in the area of the need requested. So, for example, after a disaster, you can list a job in the app for repairs, errands, etc., anything else that you may need help with. And someone can pick up that job and volunteers. Okay, so typically the services are priced by the hour. The app itself is free. The services are priced by the hour, but then you may have volunteers in the wake of a storm that may offer help for free of charge or at a very discounted price. And this is another one where during non-disaster times, you may not see your specific location listed, but it will probably be updated in the wake of a storm. Okay, next slide.
Okay. And before we move on, I'll just add to, you want to make sure that you vet the people that are going to come over and help you, especially if they are charging you something. You just want to make sure that they are legit and not, going to potentially scam. And I would, TaskRabbit may already vet them, with background checks and such, but that's something you definitely want to check out and be sure to keep yourself safe. So I just wanted to add that little note because we are all about fighting fraud at AARP.
Absolutely. Yes. And I believe I had downloaded TaskRabbit a while back looking at it. And I believe they do have reviews and different, types of things where you can see what other people have used them for and such. So, but yes, that's a great point. We always want to make sure that anybody that we are hiring is legit. So, okay. So here are a few other helpful apps. So Gas Buddy is a free app that allows you to see which gas stations have fuel near you. We all know how important that is because so many, especially during a hurricane, our gas stations will run out of gas so quickly. So this can be useful before a storm hits, so you know who still has gas, and then also what service stations may be closed due to a lack of gas after a storm. And then let's see, Nextdoor is an app that connects you to your neighbors so you can communicate during disasters. And so this is just really helpful when requesting just any type of basic needs. It could be as simple as a missing pet or other missing items. And so it's a free app that can be especially useful for senior citizens, especially if you're living alone. And it should also be downloaded by all parties before the disaster occurs. And so I will kind of touch on that a little bit more later, but you want to make sure that anyone who is wanting to use that app, whether it's the person needing help, and then also the person, anybody that you want to get in touch with, that you both have that app downloaded. And then Zello is another free app that can work with minimal cell service coverage and the spottiest Wi-Fi. So Zello basically turns your phone into a two-way radio similar to a walkie-talkie. And that often just helps whenever, text or phone calls will not go through. So super, super helpful. Okay, and then next slide, please. Okay, so here are a few final tips. Okay, so as I said before, it is important to allow the apps that you're using access to your location so you get accurate alerts. Now, I don't suggest turning your location services on, for all of your apps on your phone, just the ones that you need, like, your specific weather apps, anything where it needs to pick up your exact location to be able to provide you with the services that are available in your area. So make sure your location services are turned on for those specific apps to ensure the most accurate updates. And then you also want to make sure that you and anyone that you want to get in contact with download those apps prior to the storm. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. So keep in mind that anyone you want to communicate with on any app must have the app downloaded. And then again, because cell phone service may be spotty or non-existent after a storm, you want to make sure that all of these are downloaded and that you've registered for anything you have to register for before the disaster hits. And lastly, make sure that you are keeping your battery life strong, because you're just going to want to take certain steps to make sure that that battery life lasts as long as possible. So it's a really good idea to keep your phone fully charged and have an external battery pack on hand. And also just try to use your phone as little as possible to save your battery in case your power goes out and you have no way to charge your device. All right, next slide. Okay, so for more information on social media help during disasters, you can visit our blog at savlp.org. So that blog went up yesterday. It's got a little bit more extensive information than what I've even talked about on here. And then if you forget anything I've said, you can refer to that as well. Next slide, please. Okay, and here is some contact information for the South Alabama Volunteer Lawyers Program. You've got our website and 2 phone numbers. Also, Legal Services is another pro bono service that you can contact. And then if for some reason you don't qualify with income requirements for either of those, you can also contact the Lawyer Referral Service, which is another low-cost program. All right, next slide. Okay, any questions? And this is, I'm going to give my little disclaimer too about this. I I am not a tech expert, so I will do my best to answer any questions. But I'm just like y'all when it comes to all of this. These are just some really great resources that I have found that I thought would be helpful. So that's my little disclaimer there.
And this was great. Thank you so much, Heather. Just if anybody has any questions, please put them in chat. I did notice that Nicole, who I believe works with you, Heather, she put
does
the blog website in there and mentioned that
Perfect.
there is one on contractor fraud and tips for after the storm, which is
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
And I think you've actually been on with us before talking about that kind of stuff. So
yes, I
yeah.
have.
And
yeah, no, Nicole is a great tech person, so she could probably help us out with any tech
so
questions.
spotlight Nicole. So, but that's
she's probably
great.
like shaking her head at me right now. She said some days,
you know, and a lot of folks, you know, are on Facebook too, and it's there you can see where some folks will say they mark themselves safe after a storm and stuff, which
Correct.
is really useful as well.
Yes.
And
yes.
so that's another venue and stuff. And like you said, you know, keeping those battery packs charged up. I know you can find the battery, the little power packs or whatever they're called for your phone to keep it charged. You can find those pretty cheap these days.
Yes, Walmart has them.
Yeah,
Best Buy, just about any place like that.
Absolutely. So, and those are great to have. I have several, and I just kind of always keep them charged up and ready to go. So I have enough juice for my phone and my husband's phone and all that good stuff. So that's always a good tip. So, and like you said, with the location services now, usually the apps you can choose to just use those location services when you're using the app, which is really helpful.
Right. So, and they even now a lot of times, you know, will ask you, like it will pop up and ask you if you want to only have the location services on while you're using that app. And that's what I personally always do. Just, you know.
Absolutely. That's what I do too. So, and another little tip that I personally do is I have an iPhone. And so I know that, and I'm sure the other cell phone folks have the smartphone folks, but there's a where you can find your iPhone. You know, if you've lost it, you can kind of log on to the computer, put in your password and everything, and it'll help locate your phone. Which you know, if I'm ever traveling or something by myself, I always make sure my husband has that password and information so he can track me if he needs to. So that's another thing, you know, if you are evacuating, especially, or something like that, and you want people to kind of keep in touch of where you are, what you're doing, or vice versa, you know, just to be safe. So
and that's a great point. And I didn't even put that in the slides, but like Find My Friends, you know, a lot of us, if you have an iPhone, I'm not sure if it's available on Android, but I know it is on iPhone. But Find My Friends, and that where you can keep in touch with your family, you can see where they are, and so I think those are great because, you know, you never know when we rely so much on our cell phones. You never know when that may not, you know, or you may not be able to get in touch with somebody. So just being able to look up and see where they are and where they are.
Absolutely. And let's see, on the iPhone, can share the location without the need to share passwords. Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I did not realize that. So that's great. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that. Natalie says, thank you. I was not aware of the apps you spoke of. I'm actually fascinated by Zello. I think I might have to like download that and play with it with my husband and see how that works. Cause that's great. So
and Zillow has a lot of options too. Like you can use them within companies, like in the corporate setting as well, to talk to people in the office or, you know, whatnot. And so they have different groups that you can, so if you wanted to create your own group within that, like with your family or whatever, that's also a great option. So
excellent. And Nicole, I just want to say, she came back with the battery jump start for cars will also work to charge phones. So if you have one of those little jump starters for your car, I did not know that. So that's interesting. And Monica says, thanks, very informative. I appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us. And folks, just to remind you, let's see. Oh, and Debbie, I'm getting to that right now. So it takes a little while for me to get this recording up and onto our YouTube page. Our YouTube page is AARP Alabama on YouTube. Now, once I do get it uploaded there, everyone who's registered for this is going to get an email with the link to the recording, so you can look back at it, and a link to a very short survey, just, so we can know, what you liked, what you maybe didn't like, what you'd like to see in the future. So please keep an eye on that. It'll be probably in the next day or so where I can get that uploaded and get that out to you guys. But so hopefully, Debbie, that answers your question. And again, it will be, if you for some reason don't get that email, because our system can be glitchy sometimes, you can always look on AARP Alabama's YouTube page. And we have that recording. We also have the recording that Heather did with us a couple of weeks ago on documents, important documents during disasters. And that one was a really great one too, because it talked about what happens if you lose your documents or they get damaged or anything like that during a natural disaster. So please, I encourage you to look at that one if you have not yet. It's great. And we've also got a whole bunch of great other videos on and presentations on our YouTube page as well. So folks, I really thank y'all for coming today. Heather, thank you so much for
Thank you for
this.
having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I'm so sorry. I was just going to reiterate too. We also have a blog on the SAVLP website for the lost documents as well. So if they want to go back and watch that recording and then refer to the blog, that would be super helpful.
Yes, absolutely. And that's I'm going to put it savlp.org.
Yes.
And Nicole says, thank you, ladies. And Nicole, we thank you for all of your valuable information. So we really appreciate it. And again, folks, thanks so much. We'll have this recording up in a couple of days, and we'll have that email with the survey and the recording link sent out to you so that you can view it and share it. And stay tuned. We've got a lot of other stuff going on in October. October is open enrollment for Medicare. So we are going to be working with some folks and doing some Zooms on Medicare open enrollment and kind of helping to guide folks in a non-biased way through all of that, because I know that can get very confusing. And Natalie, oh, you're in Hawaii. Great. Oh, I'm going to be there one day, Natalie. So one day I'm going to be in Hawaii. I know. But I'm so glad that you found this information valuable. And Laura, thank you for coming. Again, everyone, thanks so much for coming. Heather,
thank you.
Not thank you enough for doing this. And of course, I will be roping Heather into doing more presentations for us in the future.
Anytime.
So again, folks, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Did you have any final thoughts, Heather, or anything?
I think I am good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us. And folks, I am going to end the meeting now. So I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day.
All right. Thanks.